Look at this big blender ball. What? This isn't a texture demo, it's the logo. That's a funny looking ancient little hand. It kind of looks like it's, well, it probably is, it's probably separately exported in 2D regardless, because you wouldn't do 3D for a loading screen anyway. We're back for Riven. It's Riven time. And then I'm going to Riven all over the place. So I previously covered Riven a few years ago. Might have been 5 or 6 years ago at this point, actually. Because I gave Myst a try, and then we quickly ended up playing every single game in the series. So I've now covered Myst 1 through 5, Uru, Abduction, and Firmament. But it's been ages, so I covered the Myst remake recently, and quickly realized, oh, I don't remember any of the puzzles. I remember like the layout and the story a bit, and I remember the trick to that one lever, but I do not remember where I'm going, or what order to do things in, or how to get anything done. So I really did get to just like solve my way through Myst again. Like I waited the correct amount of time. So I also don't think I know how to play Riven, so this will be a second blind playthrough, kind of, on this channel, because I vaguely remember the story layout of this game, but it's been long enough that I'm like, I don't remember these puzzles for shit. Alrighty, I gave the settings a once over, let's go. Many ages, infinite truths. Old Dunny proverb. Proverb? Good job.
Thank God you've returned. I need your help. There's a great deal of history that you should know, but I'm afraid there's no time to explain. Most of what you'll need to know is in here. For reasons you will discover, I can't send you to Riven with a way out. But I can give you this. It appears to be a linking book back here to Dunny, but it's actually a one-person prison. It's the only way to capture Gehn. Here. Once you've freed Catherine, I'll come with a linking book. She'll know how to signal me. There's a very good chance, if all this goes well, that you'll be returned to the place that you came from. Until we meet again, take care, my friend.
It's quite a setup. All these contrivances to set up to figure out how to, like, use the mechanics of the linking books to not get caught and so on. That for reasons you will discover, I can't send you back with a link. Tell me! You're setting me on a dangerous mission. What do you mean, for reasons I'll discover? Is it supposed to... I don't think it's supposed to look like that. I think something's wrong. I was given an early access copy of this game so I could produce some day one video about it. Maybe that'll be resolved in a patch. I don't think it looked like that originally. I'm pretty sure that linking books always just had a clear slideshow. Well, it's probably fine. I'm probably fine. Nothing gonna go wrong here. Oh, hi. New best friend?
Chỗ Seriaje Kajawarem Mulu Wipomen Tagema Rekoa Tagema Surekoa Visira Mutika bukuanai Visira Mutika bukuanai Bukuan ay. Isirap. Bukuan ay. Bukuan. Bukuan.
I wouldn't touch that. Dinner is served. No, come back. Let me out. I can't step over small bars. Yes, I'm free. Y'all are fucked when I unlock a jump button in Myst 6. That'll never happen. Look at all that. The 3D models are better than in the Myst remake, where they were upsetting. It's quite the intro. Look at this, like, old-timey cursor. You can see, you can count the pixels on this thing. It's very funny. Alright, so they jammed that dagger right in there. Tab is my satchel. Oh, it floats weirdly far from my face, I guess for the VR version. I've chosen not to play in VR because I think overall VR is usually harder to watch for everybody else, even if it might give me a cooler experience sometimes. So unless the game's going to be a ton of really tactile, interesting VR interactions, like Half-Life Alyx, I think it's usually not that worth it. And this game was not made for VR originally. It was made for 1997 computers or something, so it's probably not going to use the VR to its fullest. It's just a neat version to have. Right, it's a view of the starry expanse, right? Nope. It's a glimpse of what's happening down there. There's such a distinct and alien first thing to spawn in on. Like it's quite the there's a word for this sort of like horizon crafting. It's a term that comes up with the theme parks and stuff like that. And I immediately, is it called windowing? I don't know. But there's like there's a shot composition here, but like it's a real life concept too, where you come out and you just have all these things of intrigue all at once on top of just the actual people that just happen in front of you. It is a little goofy that like everything is framed, like the world itself is framed so that it looks interesting from this specific location, because then you look slightly to the side and there's just kind of some like Like, compared to how crowded everything is right here, it's funny how there's just, like, a wall and stuff. But, like, this was the game for windowing or whatever it's called. Because, like, Myst 1 and 2 were 2D games you clicked through, so something that's potentially lost in converting it to 3D is that now you can just look around and be like, ah, some rocks. Whereas, like, the whole game was a series of screens that were carefully framed in a way similar to, like, say, how, like, Resident Evil would have individual frames. Like, as you walk through its mansion, all these, like, pre-rendered not cutscenes, all these pre-rendered, like, camera angles would show you interesting views for horror reasons. Myst wasn't as wild and crazy as that, because of course it's meant to be first person, so you wouldn't like randomly be like floating in the top corner of a room or something and looking down at it diagonally. But the places that you would stop at were all sort of like points of interest. Hi. Bye. That's a good moment, though. So logically, that's the person that just ran off. They took the other guy and took him up there and went over there. I'm noticing some interesting format changes between when the game came out originally and how it's presented now as a video game. Like, for example, this is all happening here, and I talked about like how the framing here is clearly designed for a 2D shot, and that's why it's laid out this way, and being able to walk around freely is like a slight weird compromise of that. That scene was interesting to see play out, but I had a pop-up that said that it's achievement unlocked. Discover the fate of Gehn's man. And it's like, oh, so you just explained to me via an achievement that character worked for Gehn specifically. Hello. That's neat. Because, like, this is inherently very tactile and low information. Like, Atreus doesn't even tell you why you came here. Or he tells you that he gives you a book to capture Gehn. But you don't know who Gehn is. You don't know why you can't have a door that brings you back. You have very little understanding of what's happening here. That appears to be a camera pointed at the door to monitor if someone's being held. But yeah, things are so low information that we're just given these pieces of information to parse what's even down there. Like, oh, it appears to be stars, which is weird because it's pointing down, not up. And then you pull this thing and you're like, that's a vacuum force. In a very tactile, upsetting way, you're kind of instructed what's happening here. And you're like, what the fuck's happening? Is this like a sealed rift in the planet that goes down into space somehow, despite space being normally up and whatnot? And this is like this is kind of an existential nightmare, to have the tube that sucks air out of your world whenever it's opened, that you probably never get back because it left the world. So like having achievements that explain things by comparison feels like a mistake. It does strike me as odd that the opening is this high up. You would think there'd be like vacuum problems in those other directions by comparison. Anyway, I don't actually know where I'm going though, so let's see. There's a road going down here to a secret little door, so keep that in mind for later, because we can't get there now. I think that might be... I'm not sure if that's comprehensible dunny writing or not. We have some reintroduction to do. There's a repeating brand. Interestingly, the pointer comes up when you point at certain things. Oh, am I doing that? I'm clicking and it's coming up. I thought it was coming up to indicate that I could interact with that thing, even though I didn't seem to be able to do anything with it. Alright, so nothing does anything yet, seemingly. Okay, so if it shows a hand, I can grab. But if it's showing a pointy finger, that's just because I'm clicking around. Look at all that detail. You'll believe you're actually looking at rocks. And does this wrap around to where I saw earlier? We have an asterisk keyhole. And another stabbed knife, like we saw earlier. Oh, that thing's spinning. Bye. What's this? There's stars up there. A scarab beetle. A rival window that seems to have the same marking on it. Beetles abound. Same marking on the floor. The question is, how much does this room rotate per button press? Oh. Okay. So okay, so it has 3 directions then. It's rotating by 1/3. There's a door offset to the side each time. I think it's approximately 1/3. Might not be, because it might be divided into fifths. So they might not be perfectly offset. Either way, there's a door over there. There was one over there. I need one of the open doors to be facing this side for me to go inside. But it also might, you also probably access one of these doors from the other side at some point while this door is open. Right. So this is the configuration that lets me come inside. Is that marking? See, they kind of all have the same marking, which is a little unhelpful. 5 point, and then that thing. Yeah, they don't change configuration. It'll take some work to figure out what directions they face. That thing's spinning out there. But if I move the thing by the right amount, then it'll probably link up 2 different pathways with each other and allow me to pass between them. But I need to find the back way in. Hello. The angry creature thing eats trees and spits paper. And we worship the paper. Then we burn the paper? There's a hand reaching down at the paper. Linking a book and so on. They worship the bookman. It's the bookman. He's immediately framed as saint-like, powerful, a deity character. They're associated with the scarabs. And they create dogs and man and sun and fish. So it's God. It's a god. Yep. And then Gehn appointed 5 dudes to be the guys that do the things. And the things are, whatever the left one is. Construction, I guess? Engineering? Next one is schooling. Third one looks like war. Fourth one looks like mathematics. Fifth one looks like cultivation. It shows trees falling from a tree, which is a funny representation, but I think they do mean like essentially the entire production of pages, all the steps involved in making paper. And then he threw someone in a hole. Banished, and they have a book. It's funny because it's a very gangly, wacky looking drawing, but it's like, functionally that's the iconic image of all of Myst, is the guy falling. To the point where they recreated it in like a like splotch of tar in Witness, in The Witness. They had like a reference to that the exact pose that is like the iconic Myst drawing, which is not quite what we're looking at there. Yeah, the guy falling into the starry expanse is important. So this is all definitely written out, and also not something I can read on the fly. There's 3 things of writing on the walls. And that's the part of the room that rotates, isn't it? No. What rotates is outside of that. So the walls are always in the same positions. And then the doors open up a bit. Actually, I'm not entirely clear on that. Like, there was a door over there, right? Oh yeah, the entire inside of the room rotates, and then these are the doorways that let you access different things. I might have needed to just run in there just now. Whoops. Alright, well, we're probably overdue to start reading our book. Splotches. 87-6-10. They held for more than 30 years, but the corrections I made to Riven have finally failed. The island has resumed the familiar pattern of decay that is the hallmark of my father's work. I must now race to implement this new patch before it's too late. I only hope that my revised theories are sound. You can see the signs of writing on the back. I wonder if it matches up with anything. I will see something. So it's the ink bleeding through from the other side. It's not the ink pressed across from the other side. Which means that they wrote something here. I wonder if somebody with more time than me from like the Reddit or something can like unpack what they wrote there, or if they just copied a different page from elsewhere for the simulation of there being text bleeding through. Because this is technically, if it's not copy pasted from somewhere else as an effect, this is technically new writing, but it's basically illegible though. 87-6-16. Revisions to Riven completed. There are still a number of minor adjustments that need to be made, but the basic corrections are in and should be working. Something's not right. I've been monitoring the instructions for several hours now, but have thus far observed no change. It's possible I've made an error, though I've checked my entry against my pre-notation and can find no discrepancy. I haven't slept in nearly 3 days, so it may be that I'm just not seeing it. If the fault is with my foundational assumptions, however, perhaps after a short rest, I will see something. 87-6-18. Success! It appears that my repairs have been effective after all. The gateway image has become noticeably clearer, and although it's impossible to know this with absolute certainty, the island seems to have quieted itself. Just a few more weeks of work, and I should be free, at last, to go there myself and attempt to bring Catherine back. The past 8 months have left me little time to devise a strategy for getting her out of there. There's been no sign of her in all that time. I only hope that No, I must assume she's all right, lest my fears undermine my efforts. I can see why he'd be really stressed out, because in the extended fiction we know that there's this question of like, if you make too many changes to the linking book, or the source book or whatever, or the age that you're editing, you can essentially stretch the rubber until it snaps. and it kind of resets in some way. And it's if you've been married to someone for 30 years that is currently inside that book, that would be very stressful. You can see why he's so fixated on that. Potentially they have to come up with something for it, because like he was so fixated on fixing Riven that he wasn't even doing much about the fact that his sons were wreaking havoc and had imprisoned him, and also notably just isn't that interested in the fact that you saved him at the end. Like he's like, that's nice, thanks, I'm busy. Like it's a very understated reaction to you finishing Myst. It's like he goes right back to working and doesn't really want to deal with you, which is funny. But he's just so consumed in what he was doing at the time, which is fixing Riven, which is where we are right now, because this world was dying and his wife was currently in it, and he hasn't made contact with her since, so he doesn't technically know whether or not he like reset this age in some way, which in some ways would be a fix for the Gehn problem, but would also be a problem for getting Catherine back. 87-619. I did not create the Age of Riven. Unlike my father, I have never presumed to have such power, and yet the future of all those who live there has fallen into my hands. So far, I've managed to read the page before it turns. The island continues to appear stable, and I would like to believe that I have saved a dying world. But the theories of one individual cannot support the lives of real people indefinitely. I must get everyone off of Riven as soon as possible. The problem now is Gehn. I'll never be able to rescue Catherine and relocate the islanders if he is still the man he used to be. I haven't seen him for over 30 years, but given his history, I must assume that he's still a threat. His myopic mission to restore the Dene civilization has left too many innocent cultures dying in its wake. A pattern that would no doubt continue were he to ever escape the confines of Riven. For more than 3 decades now, the universe has been safe from his corruptive influence because no one has been able to leave that ill-fated age. The last linking book out of Riven having been lost in the star fissure upon my return to Myst. That was our intention, to maroon my father on Riven by removing all existing links to other worlds. Since the libraries containing the vast and intricate knowledge needed to construct linking books remained largely confined to the ruins of Dene, he would be trapped there for the remainder of his lifetime, and effectively separated from the countless other worlds that he would have invaded. This is what we achieved, but the way it fell was no one's ideal. And although the sting of it has gradually faded over the years, the deep pain of responsibility for what actually came to pass has never left me. At the time, it all seemed so clear. Gehn's destructive path could not be allowed to continue. But it was never my wish that the innocent inhabitants of Riven, who had already suffered so much, would be the ones to pay for it. But enough. To dwell in the past is to die in the present. And the situation is not the same as it was then. The knowledge I've acquired since that time has yet to be factored into the equation. 87-620. I think I have a solution for rescuing Catherine. Why it did not occur to me sooner, I do not know. Unless the thought had been pushed out with the memory of my sons. A prison book. Many years ago, during a hunting expedition through the ruins of Dene, I chanced upon a formula for the most unusual type of book. Unfortunately, as my father was then in the habit of confiscating my discoveries, I had to leave it behind. Years later, however, as part of my efforts to protect the vulnerable worlds linked to the books in the library, I was pleased to find I could still recall most of the formula, and with a little experimentation, quickly succeeded in creating one of those devices myself. This procedure is actually quite simple. By altering key lines of text, but slightly, a normal linking book's connection can be partially severed, such that anyone who attempts to use the book will be permanently trapped in the dark void of the link. Unless someone else then uses the book, at which point that person becomes trapped, and the first person displaced back into the world. The technique can be applied to books that have already been written, changes the text being so slight that anyone who is unfamiliar with the code would be unable to detect them. If my father is indeed unchanged, what better bait could there be than a book that appeared to be a link back to Denis? That's a mess. What's funny is that, like, when you think about it, I think this is like an unnecessary complication to linking books. The idea of a special linking book that's a prison book. You get trapped in a weird void unless somebody else makes a mistake of using it too. Then you switch places. It's a lot of special rules that don't apply to how linking books normally work. And notably, they already came up with an idea for a prison book, technically, in that you just need to have a book that links to a prison, essentially. Like, that's, in the first game, Atreus is trapped in the ruins of Dunny because they trapped him by simply having him use a linking book and then not having a way to link back. Because that's basically how it works, is that you need to go through the linking book with a book that leads back to your home, because then you can use the linking book that leads back to your home to get back to your home. Because every time you go through a linking book, you disappear, and the book is left behind. So you need to have doors, essentially like one-way portals that lead both ways in both locations to get back and forth. So they already have a way of imprisoning people. You just link someone to anywhere where they can't get back, and they can't make their own linking books to make their own way back. So prison books just kind of feel like an unnecessary complication to introduce. And him having to research that level of information also just kind of feels goofy, because, like, even in his own backstory, that in the books that the book they wrote before this, I believe, which was the Book of Atreus, they established that Gehn imprisons Atreus by trapping him with a linking book. So he gets linked to a specific part of the ruins of Dunny that have, like, caved in and been closed in, which very well might be the exact same room that he gets trapped in Mist 1, because that's also a trap. So I don't think you really need to come up with a prison book at that point. You have functionally the same thing, and it's less risky and more controllable. Like this whole one prisoner rule. You could just keep, if multiple people make the mistake of using the prison book, they could just all be trapped in there. So that removes the ability to accidentally release the prisoner you're afraid of releasing, because you have to very intentionally release them by going in there with a linking book to give them a way of getting back out. So it's very easy to imprison them with the old way, and then if their lackey makes the mistake of also linking in there, then okay. Or if somebody discovers the book 30 years later and is like, "What's this?" and they click on it and like, "Ah, you've unleashed the ultimate evil on the world." It's like, this seems like a bad idea. Seems like a bad design. Don't make that one. It also, like, creates a humanitarian crisis, or that's not the right term for it. Bit of a moral quandary in that, like, if you burn a linking book that's a prison book, what happens to the person? Because if you burn a linking book that just sends someone to an age that they can't get back from, that just severs the ability for somebody to follow them there, and the ability to find them again, potentially. But they're just there forever on some planet, having a normal-ish life. But if they're in, like, a linking void, I don't know. First of all, how long do they live in there? Like, how many days do you live in the void before you die? And if you do just live forever, what happens if the book gets burned? Do you just float in a void forever? Or do you die with the burning of the book, for example? Anyway, I've been thinking about Mist too much. 8772. Trouble. My nightly analysis of the island's condition has revealed that the tremors have started again. The pattern, however, is new. The disturbances are the result of the changes I have made. This did not, at first, concern me. Tremors of this type were one of the possible side effects I'd anticipated during the initial phase of the island's readjustment, but in order to verify my assumptions, I recalculated. Incorporating the new data, the results were not what I expected. The damage to the understructure is more extensive than I'd realized. I can no longer go to Riven as planned. Catherine, forgive me. 8773. I must act while I have the time. The signs are as yet barely visible, but there is no question that the island's deterioration is accelerating. Total collapse is immediate, unless I can keep ahead of it, and that is becoming increasingly difficult to do. 8775. With every passing moment, I gain a clearer picture of the incredible chaos that my father's shortcuts have yielded. But it's a dismaying process. The complexity of the problem is overwhelming. There is no good end to this. The last few days have convinced me that the collapse of Riven is inevitable, and that, at best, I can only strive to delay it in the hope that at some point the island will become stable enough to risk a rescue attempt. In the prequel story, they get onto like the difference between how Atreus writes and how Gehn writes, because Gehn was teaching him how to write these books because he wanted an heir, basically, and a legacy, and also more power and more influence and somebody that can work for him and so on. But Gehn's way of learning, because everyone in here is severed from their own history, because the Dunny people are gone and their civilization is gone. Although more recently than I would have thought. Gehn was alive technically at the beginning of this process and briefly experienced this stuff as a child. But he's separated from them, and there's no continuity of teaching. Like, nobody's passing down the art. So he's trying to brute force relearning the art via doing the equivalent of like looking up how to program online and copy pasting JavaScript into his code, like that supposedly does certain things as far as he can tell. And so it's a real hack job mess, whereas Atreus is apparently able to pick this all up intuitively and weave it and sort of like feel it. Like, he's able to process the art more emotionally, I think, and more intuitively. And so he's able to actually genuinely write this stuff. Despite it being much less experienced, he immediately is surpassing Gehn in a way that threatens him. Whereas Gehn is just a nightmare hack job, and he's very toxic and shitty about his worlds. Like, he not only does he have a colonialist mindset to the worlds that he has, where he sees himself as a god and above all of the indigenous people that he discovers or creates in these settings, however it works. He uses the books as a form of power. He edits these books to threaten these people into submission. But then, and personally, I do think that they create the book. I think they create these worlds and do not link to them, because I think that, mainly because I don't like multiverse stories anyway. If they're linking to them, they're linking to infinite, slightly different versions of the same place, and that's just annoying, because it makes everything feel trivial and unimportant with there being infinite copies of things. I don't like those kinds of stories. Whereas, like, the idea that they're creating it just maps on more intuitively to how half of the stuff works, because they can literally change the world they're editing, and the same people are still there and still remember what happened in it. Like, you can change it so harshly that it supposedly resets in some way. That snap that happens where the rubber band snaps, and then everyone stops remembering. But I don't think that's evidence of there being a multiverse, because the fact that you can change things at all without that happening means that you are editing that world. Like, that's obviously the case. And the idea of even being able to save Catherine and or punish Gehn is dependent entirely on the idea that this is the one universe where that happens. If editing things was linking to multiple slightly different universes, that wouldn't even make sense, because this other world one would have a Catherine in it that never met Atreus and never met Gehn, and then it would have a Gehn, and then it just wouldn't have a Gehn at all, because Gehn linked to a specific world. He didn't exist inherently on this planet before it came here. I'm trying to remember whether or not the people of Catherine's people were indigenous to Riven, or they were indigenous to a different world and then were sent to Riven to be saved. But no, I'm pretty sure that this is their home world, because they trapped them here with Gehn. So, yeah, no, for me, the entire reasoning breaks down if you think of it as a multiverse. Like nothing, a lot of the story of Myst seems impossible if it's a multiverse. It has to be worlds they're essentially writing and discovering, and that also just makes intuitive sense because they're writing the essentially the code, and these ages then exist as they describe them, and like specifically as just exist as they describe them. There are unexpected consequences to that, but that's just the complexity of what they're doing, not the idea that they link to a place that happened to exist already. I just don't think that interpretation makes much sense. I think that it's humble of Atreus to assume that doesn't have the power to create, and that's healthier because Gehn and Atreus' sons realizing the power they have over these places and then having that immediately corrupt them is obviously bad. And but I also think that Atreus humbling himself is a defense mechanism that allows him to continue his work, because if he keeps writing ages after knowing the power he has, it's kind of inherently unethical to do what he's doing. Like, he's playing with lives. He's fucking around with settings that have people alive on them, and there's inherently a question of whether or not it's ethical to even risk creating places when you don't know the responsibility. Like, you don't know what's going to happen to the people on those places and whether they'll be safe. And also, is it ethical to just create civilizations because you get what? Because you're curious, essentially. So him telling himself that he is just linking to things feels like it's a self-humbling that removes a certain level of responsibility. He sees himself as responsible for Riven because there's a direct legacy and history with his family of how this place is the way it is and why these people are in danger, so he feels beholden to save these people. But if he was being a moral actor in all this and also acknowledging the power he actually has over all of these ages, then the only conclusion potentially would be to stop writing ages, and then the franchise is over because nobody will do the thing anymore. And the only way they could write sequels would be to always endlessly be chasing the trauma and mistakes of past people and never making new things yourself, which immediately destroys the power fantasy and adventure sense that the setting has. So it's just a big tangled mess. Anyway, it's fun to think about. And also, I don't know, man, I've read each book once and played each game once. There's definitely Myst scholars that could contradict me or something, but I think that I'm onto something. 877. 8777. So we're still in 1987. So all this happened before I was born. And also notably, like, 10 years before this game came out. I think it was 97. I'm not entirely sure. But I was born in 90. I'm only 34. I think I've come up with a way to subdue the tremors. It will require my exclusive attention for at least a month or two, so it may be necessary to discontinue these journal entries for a while. It's very funny to me. It's an acknowledgement that it'd be tedious to read everything in granular detail, so time skips are just handy. But saying I need a whole month or two to focus on this, so I can't write a note about what I'm doing is very funny. When that's arguably all that he's doing, because he's writing the entire time. So the idea that he can't just do a little document on the side about what his thought process is like. What do you mean you're too busy? You're literally thinking about this thing, and you're writing about your work in real time. Anyway, and this is 2 sentences. 87-7-13. Something truly miraculous has happened. Beyond all conceivable probability, someone has found my lost Myst linking book and freed me from this prison. So this is so this is the end of the last game. He's just shitting himself like, oh my god, whoa, hey. Man! Yeah, he thought he'd be busy for 2 months, and he will be, but 6 days after he wrote that, I think is what that says, is when the Lone Wanderer came by and finished the first Myst game and freed Atreus from being trapped in there, which is funny. I'm amused that he always writes Myst in capital letters, like an acronym, even though it's not, as far as I can tell. I don't think Myst is an acronym, actually. Let me see. Is Myst an acronym? Because Uru is technically... Okay, no, if you type mystery science... If you type Myst as an acronym, the first thing you say is you see Mystery Science Theater, which I don't think is the case. And yeah, it does not appear to stand for anything. Yeah, I don't think Myst is an acronym. Their later game, Uru, is sometimes said to be an acronym. I don't know if it's true or just a fan interpretation, but it's URU. It's just them being goofy. Because the game where you play as yourself in an MMO, as opposed to the Lone Wanderer, or the Mysterious Wanderer, whatever the faceless, nameless, genderless wanderer is that you play in all these games. I immediately realized that this could be the solution to my dilemma, and I believe my mysterious benefactor is willing to assist me. The logistics of such a scheme are formidable, but the fact that it may now be possible for me to continue my repairs to Riven while also proceeding with my original intent to find Catherine has renewed my hopes. 87-7-16. The last few days have left me little time to work out the remaining problems with sending someone else to Riven. It did occur to me, however, that if a way could be found to signal me once my father, Gehn, had been captured, it would no longer be necessary to take a real linking book to Riven, and thereby risk the possibility of inadvertently freeing him. The deteriorating state of the gateway image, okay, so it is supposed to be fucked up then, would seem to make the use of visual signal impossible, yet the picture remains a reliable indicator of Riven's condition nonetheless. By measuring and interpreting variations in the noise patterns, I am still able to observe basic changes that occur in the age, even though I cannot see them. That's upsetting. The problem is that my instruments can only detect changes that occur at a fundamental level, and it seems unlikely that an individual would be able to affect such an elementary change from within an age. The idea may be foolish. That seems really dubious. How do you know you're not just interpreting it all wrong if you can't even clearly see the image? Like, the idea of editing the world to fix it based on a noisy, fucked up distorted picture like the one we saw earlier, seems like a really scary way to try to fix anything when such things are at stake. Still, there is a known weakness that may be worth investigating. An unstable anomaly that appears as a rift between two separate realms. The Star Fissure. But how this feature might be exploited, I cannot say. Sending someone to Riven also means that once signaled, I will have to leave my writing in order to take a real linking book there myself. Provided my father is safely out of the way, this should take a little time. Assuming the island does not incur any serious damage during my absence, I should then be able to return to Kivir and hold it together long enough for Catherine to evacuate the remaining islanders. Predetermining a specific signal may simply be impossible, but I'm afraid there can only be one answer to the question of whether or not I should send my friend to Riven with a way out. The potential for success will be greatly increased, and the possibility of disaster greatly diminished if the prison book is all that is taken there. My father is no doubt expecting me to bring a linking book to Riven. May he not be disappointed. Alright, and so we have done our every game tradition of reading a book for a long time at the beginning of a Myst story. I remember when I had the early instincts to try to break them up and do them in bursts. But it is really just the entire setup of each game is just hang out and read this book. And it is entertaining in its own way because it's specifically written biographically, or it's written diegetically, like by a character within the story. So there's the Great Dome. It's got its own little soundtrack to it a little bit. Let's test really quick whether or not I can walk in while it's... Nope. They don't let you walk in while it's rotating. It's too easy. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I need to connect two other locations, and that's how this hallway works. That makes sense. And yeah, it makes sense that you wouldn't be able to walk in because the game originally was a series of clicky animations. It's currently like over there, the other door, I think. It'd be hard to gauge what to do until I can actually access sides of that area. Hello. But yeah, originally this was a bunch of pre-rendered images. So it makes sense you wouldn't be able to react to the animation in real time, because when you clicked on that thing, the screen would just freeze and you would watch the animation play while not being able to walk. Secret door. It's not that secret. There's a door. There's a doorknob on the side too. All the effort to make it brick, and then it's that. More worship. So I can be a little more straightforward about what I know, because they've straight up called out that this is all Gehn in the journal now. So he has subjugated these people. I wonder how he's been able to do that reasonably. That he would have instilled a lot of fear on these people back when he had the power to cause calamities. Like, he could make the fucking ocean disappear and reappear and other stuff like that happen. Just horrible nightmare things could happen to the world. But he hasn't had access to linking books this entire time. So what's interesting about the other room being full of worship about him being the bookman and all these pages everywhere is that it's all worship of his power that he had 30 years ago. He has not had that power for 30 years, otherwise this prison wouldn't work. If he could write, like actually write, like the art, not write in books normally, then he would not be here anymore. He would have made a linking book to some other place and fucked off, and would be so many planets away from us, so many ages away from us, that Atreus would never find him again. And maybe he would find his way back to Dunny and be a problem by now, or maybe he would be trapped in an infinite series of new places, because maybe he can't successfully link back to a place that he can't, like, recreate or something. Who knows? But he wouldn't be here, because he doesn't want to be here, and also the world is doomed. So, logically, what that means is that he's just taking credit for all the bad things that happen here. Because he wrote this place, and he's bad at writing it, because he copy-pastes text when he does so. So he wrote a broken world, and he's trapped in it, and it's doomed, and so he's writing out the storm, and every time another calamity happens, or if the fissure trembles, or earthquakes and whatnot, he claims that he just did that, basically, right? Like, that's what he's got to be doing in order to maintain the illusion of power. Like, and that's why old iconography has, like, pens and pages and books everywhere, like those pen nibs up there. But, like, he's not writing. He might make a show of writing, but he can't edit this world because he doesn't have the Riven book. He doesn't have any of the Dunny books. He hasn't written an art. He hasn't written the art in 30 years. So he's just taking credit for earthquakes and stuff like that. Like, it's his punishment, his retribution for them not worshipping him well enough, and then they leave him these tributes, and he's surviving off of them, just farming for him. So this is how he's keeping fed, is that they just provide food for him for free. This is his altar. Now the question is, how do I play the video game? This is a very funny juxtaposition where I'm like, I have a lot to say about the narrative, but I don't know how to play the video game. Let's see, can I do anything in this room even? I don't know if I can, actually. I think this is just a whoa. Don't particularly see a mechanism here. We're trapped inside his Hall of Worship. Can we open and close it from this side? Nope, it just stays open. It's rotating by specific intervals. And given that I haven't found anything else, I think I actually do need to solve this now. Gotta get back inside. This is overlooking the direction we went in otherwise. There's a door, there's a button there. Oh. That was a hint. It was a hint that you can, that the hinge is here. That's extremely funny. They have a big complicated lock with a crazy thing for how to open this thing, but it's held on by a hinge, and the hinge is so flimsy that you could just dismantle the door. And now it's reverse. It's got the other side is essentially hinged now by the original lock. That's so goofy. Oh, that's upsetting. Okay, maybe everything's barely held together. This is like a literal popsicle stick. How small am I? Okay, so this is how I get here. So now I just need to make this doorway open. Don't know they... Oop. Oh, I thought that was a boat. Oh, the water's freaking out, isn't it? Is that a hole in the ocean, or is that a graphical glitch? It looks like a graphical glitch over there. Getting a sweet glimpse of what this game looks like before the day one patch, maybe. Ooh. You can see, you get a view of the window out there. When I look away from it, it's a little clearer. It gets stretched out by the FOV of PC games working that way, so like on the far left you get a pretty good look at how that window looks. I think that's a bug. I don't think that's supposed to be happening. Could be wrong. It could be meant to be... There's some over there too. No, those look intentional, so they're like rifts in the ocean. That's some wild magic stuff going on there, because a literal rift in the ocean doesn't make a lot of sense, but I guess you could riff on this as being like the idea like literal reality is breaking down here, so maybe the laws of physics don't entirely apply, so wild shit can happen there. I'm just gonna see each time if it happens to open up. Here we go. So I can go here, and it's offset by 2, so I should be able to go both here and here, but that door appears to be locked, just like the one that was here was. So I probably can't access it until I find it from the other side, because I already was able to approach those doors from there. So now we know what all 5 sides of this room are. This is the original entrance. Then directly to the right is the secret entrance that allows me to reach this other weird cave. And then we've seen both of these, and they both had grates, so we're probably done here until I can get to the other side of those doors and figure out how to access them from there. I love this aspect of Riven, because Myst is a little... the first Myst game is a little chaotic and arcadey and confusing and nonsensical. This is very odd. It gestured at the idea of this, but didn't quite capture it. Ooh, that smoke is 2D. Look at it go. It's always facing me. But Riven really went hard on the idea of like, no, this is a concrete setting where devices have very specific purposes, and it did a much better job at trying to make it all like make sense. There's a lot of that in Myst, but also some really weird nonsense in Myst that's very hard to parse what it's going for. Alright, so I just cut off the steam exhaust, or redirected it. So it's coming from there, and now it's going out there, which means it probably goes down to the first place we saw with the weird devices. Which, given the explanation we've seen about, we saw the diagrams of Atreus being thrown down into the void. We now more or less understand that this is the starry expanse from the beginning of Myst that we saw Atreus falling through with the linking book. And when that happened, Atreus fell, and he used the linking book, and he vanished to Myst. But the linking book fell. And with a wider context of Uru, we know that the linking book landed in Arizona or New Mexico, I forget. Southwest United States, somewhere in like the 80s. And then we picked it up and we touched it. I'm like, what's this thing? And then, well, we've been on an adventure ever since then, haven't we? It's because Myst happened to us then. So H just didn't plan that out very much. He had the book planned as his idea was to jump in this crevice that fell into space as an escape from Gehn, because it was his way of escaping. It was his way of escaping Riven years ago, 30 years ago, if I remember correctly. It was his way of escaping Gehn without giving Gehn an escape, because the book would be left behind. So he fell in this hole. He didn't know where this went, so it's a surprise to him that it happened to go to Southwest United States. And if it hadn't gone to Southwest United States, then everyone would have been fucked. So that's the coincidence that saves the entire series narratively, which is very funny. Alright, so this is some of the options available in this system. Little archway, line, zigzag, the zigzag, like this is the zigzag, this is a square or rectangle. Got an arch and a line, two lines, one line but in a different direction. Then, well, the same direction as before here. The square on its own, the zigzag on its own, the arch on its own but in a different direction. This is the line in a different direction. So horizontal, 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 vertical. We'll get into this, but we definitely can't do it right now. And then steam is coming out of here. And this appears to be powering the hatch. Was there a hinge on this thing? That's not a hinge, is it? That part might be a hinge. Not entirely. I guess there's a track for this thing to roll back and forth on. So this thing can roll forward, and that can wrap around this thing. This looks busted. Oh, it looks dark in there right now. I think this used to be a viewfinder. I think it might have adjusted the what you were looking at before. In some way. But it looks like it's been snapped. Let's go back the other way. Yep. So I don't think we have a mechanism here. So I suppose then the question is, what did powering it accomplish? Unless I can push this whole thing, I don't think this is going to be coming up for now. There's an even bigger version of the knife. No interaction though. Okay, that's just like rust or something. That's not information. Might technically be able to pull that out, but probably not helpful. Because it's ultimately just a prison for people that teleport here. They essentially found like the video game origin coordinate of this level and put a prison on it. Like there's a pressure plate, I think, that when you spawn here, the pressure plate triggers and the door closes. And then you can be released here. It's very funny. It's a bit of like this like Cold War that Atreus and Gehn have had against each other all this time. In that he just has that set up to capture him the moment he shows up again. Right, this was the cave, right? Yes, that's not gonna be it. Was there a button by here? No. Let's see, did the door... Not currently. We'll have to see if it'll let me in, because I can't really go anywhere else, right? Here we go. So give me access to the door. Well, there it is. What did I accomplish? Because the device out there didn't seem to let me get anywhere. How stumped am I right now? There's a bit of agony in being stuck on this particular puzzle just because it moves so slowly. So you're like, please. I need access to the side door. This is the only other way in. At moments like this, you kind of miss it being a 2D game because the transition FMV could be skipped. This doesn't really change anything, it's just a different way of accessing the same room. So if I want to get maybe back in there, the one place that I've been so far, see if I missed anything, I'd have to go 1, 2 more times. Yeah, because then the other door will be on this side. Oop. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. A lot of tall, sort of reed-looking, bamboo-ish looking structures out there. I doubt that we're meant to do nothing. It's a pretty simple structure. There's not much evidence that there's anything else to do in here. Oh. Uh-oh. Whoops. Yeah, that would do it. Okay, oh god. This is offset by 2, right? Yeah, so I need to be that door to get there, which means I need to press it. We need to wait for it to rotate 4 times! It's a long time. All right, let's start. Let's get started. That's my mistake. There was a sneaky little lever there. They love to hide stuff on the back sides of things too. I need to be ready for that. One of the funniest instances with that was that one door in Abduction, where they had one door that was hiding 3 doorways technically. Just a bit of little cleverness. That's 2 down. 2 to go. Meowdy. Yep, one more will do it. And we get to spend this one running, so it feels less like we're waiting. Uh-oh. Oh right, I was hooking up that doorway, so there was no reason to leave. Hi. Hi. Just wide enough slats to make you nervous about how high up you are. Yay! It's important to terrify the VR players. Oh. So it's looping. It has a dot here, then it becomes a line. And then it opens up from the inside of the line. You can watch the illusion happen here. But why? Why make this? Presumably does something else besides just show these symbols. Because it's an incredibly expensive way of doing this. You can see a similar looking marking over there. But funnily enough, if you look through that window and try to line it up with this, you can't see it very clearly. Because this pipe's in the way. The pipe blocks the corresponding symbol, so you can't actually sync it up. That's gotta be frustrating. Oh. You. And let me guess. Let's see. And the best way to get there is to rotate it. Oh no, this time it's... Nope. Yep, 1 to the left. So I once again need to press it 4 times. Because it's off. It's 1 past where it needs to be. Here we go. Oh, hey, we got this one. Okay, now this works. Okay, so we had to do 2. I was thinking about the other doorway. But this one is the one that's perfectly offset from both entrances by 2. If I'm looking at that right. Bit tacky, isn't it? The thing about making it a dome and so reflective is that, like, it'll just kind of, like, always unpleasantly reflect light at you from somewhere. There's always like an angle somewhere on there that'll just be a nightmare. So this is cool. So down here is a pool of water. Not very deep. Might be deeper at other times. It might be leaking. Because this seems to be their water reservoir, but probably like drinkable, clean water compared to the ocean out there. A lot of potential doors. So these are the symbols we saw earlier. Are they also looping? That's definitely different from the other one. Yep, they have different symbols. We don't know if there's something to parse from that yet, but they're there. Making sure I don't miss any doors. Here is door, and that's definitely where I came from. We did a full loop. There's a downstairs and a middle. It's a book. Is there like a save button? So the book doesn't seem to work, which makes sense. They shouldn't really have a working book here. And you can see writing there that matches the buttons we had back at the terminal, which we don't have a key to resolving yet. Two doors down here. Anything in this darkness? Nope. Would be rude, I guess, to hide something there. This looks like it's going to lead to the doorway that was by the starting point. Under the ridge. Hello. It opens up. Creepy. The spooky chair. Yep. Here's how he monitors his offerings. Here you can see the chamber we saw earlier. And that must be the outside door, so he probably has a mechanism in here for opening the door when he sees people wanting access, because it's probably more powerful if it responds to them. Doors opening. Bridge retracting. I figure I'll take a look, but that seems like it should be profoundly unhelpful. I don't know. I'm not sure why I would use that lever, because I think it just trapped me. Yep. I wonder if you can see these cracks clearly when it's down. But yeah, that's the way I need to go. I literally just opened that door on purpose, so retracting the bridge is unhelpful. There might be a trick to it later. Like if I was a puzzle man, I would put something on the bottom of the bridge that you can only see from the other side when it's up. But I don't have a way of going around it right now. So it being up just means I can't go anywhere. Maybe if we have enough stuff opened up that I can go around it, that can stop being a problem. For now, the front door is open. And that appears to be a microphone, huh? Like an old broadcaster microphone. So he probably broadcasts his booming voice into that room. It is I, the Wizard of Oz. Blah, blah, blah. So that's opened up, but what's over here? The same bridge, but different. That's terrifying. You would think that this kind of metal would hold, but maybe maybe the forces destroying the world got it? Because there is a crack through this area. It's unclear how those cracks form, like if they just happen through space itself, like how these oceans have impossible rifts, and then it just cut through the metal. Or if it's just those rocks leaned away and it had to break the handrail in order to continue. But yeah, I don't know what that would look like. Oh. I did it. So we're not going that way. Saves me from doing the trip where I flip the other bridge again. Because I was momentarily curious whether the other bridge affects this bridge. Like they're always in opposite states or something. Nope. That whole direction don't work. This place really is falling apart. So we were introduced to this place. Am I just here? Thought I heard something that was weird. Yeah, we were introduced to this place via the perspective of the person being worshipped. Now we're headed towards the people that would live here. Just gotta wait for this thing to get over here. Quite the transit system per person. We'll be fine. Vroom. I'm in danger. Ta-da! Well, here's someone new, somewhere new. When I get back, I'll have to remember that I should try to use the rotation device mechanic and then get out. Because we couldn't access the other side of the platform when we were over there. I don't think we could walk around it, whereas in this one we can. So here there's no reason to access the other side, but when I get back, I want to potentially try rotating the vehicle and then getting back out on the other side. Could do it now, but then we'd have to wait to the trip again. We're just gathering stuff. Gotta explore everywhere still. Nope. It's rotatable. So there's a correct side. Looks suspiciously like a button, the way that it's kind of circled in shadow. Hi there. Like big ol'... There's like half seal, half like huge pelican-looking bird things. And they particularly look like they have like the weird teeth that whales have. The filter feeders. I forget what they're called. Hi. Nope. Bye. Oh, they got out through there. I was like, how'd they get out of here? This whole area looks too shallow and rocky for them to swim around. Seems unpleasant. So we have another one of these structures. There was a whistling, so I briefly thought that the whistling was being caused by what direction it faces. This is not a lever. It's a head, X, 3 arrows. A lot of these, though. It's like a walnut tree. It's a nut tree surrounded by a fence. I don't think I see anything to do. A crying baby. Nope. It's going. Okay, so there is some kind of water repelling property around here, because you can see that there's like there's a depression in the water there. So you can board the bathysphere without it getting soaked through. But who's doing it? Will we see them get out? Nope. It's still going. Over to there. It's barely visible now. Does it disappear into a room we can't see? It's going over there. It appears to be doing a full loop. Because the question was whether or not it's the person that we saw take off in the other vehicle. If I'm like essentially just following behind on their chase. I lost it. I didn't see where the vehicle went. It never made it back. It's probably the person in the mask from earlier. The timing doesn't entirely make sense because I've taken a while to get here, but it gives you the impression that you're following someone. And this would be where we're hearing the baby from. That's where the people are. Looks like some buoys have gotten out in the water. They might be like the equivalent of like hollowed out coconuts with a net around them. Ah, I didn't like hearing that insect coming at me. And here's where we could board the thing if it came here. It's a classroom. Recognizable iconography. A blackboard, chalk. Writing in their language. The sentence starts the same way each time, but these are different variations. Uh-huh. The audio and video are out of sync. These are the symbols from the combination at the front door. These are laid out like an alphabet. It's all very recognizable as being like the layout a children's classroom would have. Looks like this board broke. I wonder how that even happens, honestly. Unless they just built this part first and they just couldn't find a slab good enough to fit it. Because I don't know how you even get that kind of slab to begin with, honestly. Alright. I think X is the screenshot button. Yep, that's worth holding on to, I guess. I think that is a grammatical correction. These red fruits are green inside. They're kind of... Yeah, somebody drew a star on the inside. There's a few things here. This means that this was recently used, because that's not a rotten fruit, I don't think. So this place is in active use. It's not like some abandoned video game ruin. People might have been here today even, and are just avoiding me specifically when I showed up. I think that was 7. That was 5. So we have 2 different systems to correlate here. We have this thing that has 2 layers and multiple directions, where you can put the fins in the bottom, the top left, or the top right, and they can have 2 in each position. Then you have a separate system where it looks like there's always a frame, a top and bottom, a left and a right. But then what's inside changes. A horizontal bar, a vertical bar. You can have the zigzag, or the curve, or the square, which isn't listed here, but we saw it elsewhere. And this looks like it's like a children's game. Like less competitive and more of just like one of those RNG look type of things, like when you play Duel, the game where you just draw cards at each other over and over again and one of them wins. So it's a competition for how long it takes to chew them down. And handily it just counts them out. It literally just moves by X number of intervals. So what you can do is you can just translate every one of these symbols into a number. That was 3. So the curve was 2 and the zigzag was 3. That's 1. It's just a normal line down the middle. Whoops. So we don't necessarily know the number for that one because it died. Yeah, this more or less gives us our entire system. Alright, let's break out the journal. Alrighty, so I've saved us a bit of time while sitting here and trial and erroring through the system so I can write down what all the answers are, because we already correlated the number of movements with what the number on the bottom is. But I'll quickly write them out here in Paint. I've already written them out in my journal, which will be more useful in what I'll actually be referring to, but to show people... I already showed you that 1 is just a straight line. That part's straightforward. Is there a semicircle thing in here? I don't think there is. It's fine, we'll just use a pencil. We'll use a brush. There we go. Less graceful, but the curve is 2. 3 is the K. Then the square is 4. Which makes a bit of sense because it's a square. So that's clean. 2, and then 5 is 1 rotated. So we only have a handful of symbols here. We'd have a line, a curve, a K, and a square, but you rotate it to get 5. And then in order to get 6, what you do is you literally just add the horizontal and vertical bars together. So that's 6 is 1 plus 5. And similarly, 5 plus 2. Oops. 5 plus 2 is 7. 5 plus 3 is 8. And then 5 plus 4 is 9. And that's the level of complexity that's been displayed so far by that little almost like hangman device. What I find funny is, I don't know if this is meant to be true or not, but I'm just now remembering that, like, a way of remembering these that I think I heard at some point. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but it is funny if this is the key to it, that they literally just look like the numbers. Might get a little more convoluted at this point. I don't know if this really makes much sense anymore. Specifically, I don't think you can do... I think the best you can do is like 4. I don't know. 1 is the easy one to remember, but remembering that 2 has the curve and 3 has this little divot in here like the number 3 does, and 4 looks like 4 kind of, and also is a square. It's handy. I don't know if that stuff makes very much sense, but it just off the top of my head I was like, hang on a minute, I think I remember this coming up before, and wanted to like poke at that. Anyway, back into the game. But yeah, the process of burning through this thing until you get all the numbers is time consuming, so I figured I'd save us the raw effort there and just get that written down. So now I know how to translate these numbers. So that's, let's see, the horizontal bar is 5, so this is 7, this is 1, this is 2, but on its side. That's not on our list of things. Horizontal bar is 5, K on the left is 3, this is 6. So there's one thing we don't know here, and it is this guy. And that one has the most markings on it. So that means it's a bigger number most likely, because we just counted 1 through 9, and none of them involve the curve being on the bottom. So this is some later other thing. Let's see. Let's screenshot this for now. I think this might correlate with those rotating dial thingies. So this is their markers. Looks like that might be an ink refilling thing. Or that maybe just... Oh yeah, this thing probably doesn't hold ink. You probably literally just hold it and you just rub that on here the way that you would like get more ink on a stamp. So that's the number system at least started. Because I believe we already have symbols we can't decipher quite yet. But the hangman-y looking thing definitely runs you through the smaller numbers. So here we've got chopped wood, we've got a bridge that is up. No particular way of interacting with it, I don't think. And we're thoroughly cut off from everything else. So they have rejected me. I am not allowed inside. They do not want me in here. So how well does this correlate? So it has an arrow pointing in one direction. The only options should be like top, left, top, right, and bottom, if it is the same system as we read elsewhere. The question is, what am I supposed to put in it? Do I count something? If it is a numbering system? It is amusing to be trying to correlate a numbering system. Oh god, the lighting system freaks out on the edge of the screen a bit, doesn't it? It's funny that we're only just now deciphering one numbering system, and it's essentially trying to hit me with another one. Okay, yeah, the reflection on the edge of the water reflection freaks out on screen edges. It looks like. Just hang out and nap, guys. I'm not trying to bother you guys. They make a particular walrusy noise. Like the pig of the ocean. Someone dropped this. Are they just gathering sand? Oh, butterfly things. Bye. Can't go any deeper in there. They really gather on that thing. Do they like wood? Or what is that? Maybe, yeah, it's a different color, so it's probably not sand. It's probably sugar or salt or flour or something. Which would be why the insects are focusing on it. Up we go. Well, that's a bit unexpected. From the distance, it looks like these huge palms or bamboo or something, and you get it here, and it just looks like giant blades of grass. Almost looks like an axe jammed into the cliff, or a huge lever of the kind I don't know how you'd ever reach or manage. Oh, this is nerve-wracking, those sounds. Oh. There is just upsettingly a hole in space right here. Forming. Okay. And here they've been deforesting. Roll the paper Gehn wants. Made all the more upsetting by the fact that there's so little place for there to be forest. So he's deforested everything practically. That's not inside there. I kind of wonder if this is like pushback on that, rebellion against all of the deforestation. I can walk over here. Look at these butterflies. Look at them scattering. Oh, number over here. It's definitely correlated to something. I must have to find what all of them are, interpret what the system is there, get the right combination into all of them to continue. Big ol' axe. There's a path downstairs. I presume that I can't open this. I thought this was a control, but it's just big ol' beetle. Bye. Oh no, I can just open it. It's nice in here. All closed in after those huge fronds. We have actual tree coverage. Natural shade. Once again with the giant swords. I wonder if anyone built those or if they were crafted with the age, because we know that in the stone ship age, Atreus just... Oh, didn't see the staircase at first. Atreus just kind of summoned a stone a ship to be inside the cliff. So artificial looking things could have been created with the age. Big weird creature. It's such an interesting mix of like ancient looking sort of primitive setups and then just like lights pointing at it. The artificiality. These modern deliberate structures. See, let's double check that tangent real quick before I lose track of it, because this place is pretty big. Lots of blue mushrooms. Big long passage. All the way out here. Pointing us back home. And there's another one. There are so many of these now. Oh. It doesn't have a mechanism. It's been torn out. Like somebody doesn't want me to use it. Maybe have a real clean look at these ravines now to really clarify that, yeah, there's just holes in the ocean. Try not to think about it. Or the next hole might form in your brain. A slight worry is that we have both the lack of bespoke camera angles and the introduction of even more chaotic and busy modern visual aesthetics. So there's always a little bit of the worry that I just won't spot the interactables in all the mess. But right now we're just trying to figure out the overall geometry of this place, so we know what we're working with. Hi. It's like a big throat-shaped cave. Aha, you thought you could keep me out. But I'm here. Dang it. I thought this was the part of the ocean that had a weird opening to it, so that must have closed while I was gone. So we need to find out how to call the bathysphere. Because if we find the bathysphere, we'll have free access to all of these different landings it stops at. And until then, I probably can't get inside at all. It's just one of those lights we've seen. Opening down there. Like there's somewhere for it to go. And with that, we've completed a beautiful loop around most of this place, which has had the somewhat terrifying outcome of me not really finding anything interactive in the process. We primarily have those things you can twist. And there's the question of what the correct inputs might be for those. But we haven't been here yet either. Oh. Oh, I read it from behind. Wondering what it wanted from me there. Whoa. Well, that's quite the visual. Am I playing Thumper all of a sudden? It seems like the water, yeah, the water repelling technology is somehow allowing this to exist under there. Oh, we're off to a completely different island. I didn't really solve anything on that island, did I? And now I'm just out. Hi. Yeah, it's the big ol' Stark place. It gives off the impression of like almost like a sulfur lake. It's so bright. It's almost certainly not healthy to interact with. It probably smells like rotten eggs here. It's like sulfur lakes are like unnaturally bright and saturated like this. Usually steaming, though, from the ones I've seen. So hard to be sure. I mean, this is almost certainly a volcano, isn't it? So this is a source of thermal power. I can point it either there, there, or there. And that seems like it'd be pointing back at the island I just came from, or this device. A wood chipper? Seems like this part was designed to mulch the trees, which I guess makes sense because this is a cart that comes from the forest. Yep. So it would drop out of the bottom. The bottom has a trap door, I think, and it would drop in there and get mulched. which I don't think I currently have a reason to do. And I believe whatever is up there I can't reach in the next place over, so I probably want to use this building because it's the one that's actually here. Oh, I can go up there, but it is closed right now. Maybe I'll try that one next. For now, let's power the building that's right here so I can use it properly, since it probably doesn't work without that. So now we know that that's the number 5, which is on a 5-pointed star. So it's been basically hinting that this entire time, because it's on a star. And they match up. Maybe I don't want it to be powered if the insides are like that. Oh. There it is. I've disconnected the water. So now I can probably go inside because it's not full of boiling water. Only if I could open the door. Is there a lever? That looks like it's floor height. Door's still not open. Here the water's back, but it's not at the height of the floor, which I can then send back down. So this just dictates which currently works, because this thing powers the two devices. But maybe you can only open the door when it's not powered, because it's meant to burn everything? It does look like the fire is always running regardless. The water's still boiling. And the door is still closed. And it seems like you can no longer drain it. Not while it's not powered. Well, next time, maybe I'll figure out how to get this door open. Also, you can check out in the link in the description, you can check out the playlist, probably that it's there for, or at least you can search, check the channel for playthroughs of all of the other Myst games, including the two spin-off-y spiritual successors, Abduction and Pentiment. Not Pentiment, Firmament. I have not played Pentiment yet. That's a different developer. And if you hop on the Patreon, in a day or two, I should have several more bonus episodes available early, so you can really, like, binge ahead, like, and get, like 10 hours in. My plan is to release this episode today, part 2 tomorrow, and then we'll be back to a normal schedule of like weekly videos, but like the next 3 episodes will be up for Patreon on early access. So if you want to binge ahead, check that out. Thanks for watching like always, guys, and I'll see you next time.